I don't know if there's anybody that you have seen act in the way that you are suggesting we do. And again, maybe it's just that we're seeing the system at work here. There hasn't been much chance for individuals to really come forward and do the right thing because you need momentum to execute on that. But are you seeing any signs of hope, Bill, or are you feeling like we're just bearing witness to a continued gridlock, fractured Congress?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, again, I'm not a political scientist, but
no, we will put that caveat out there.
Whenever you have such a profound shift in the tone and tenor and stance of one of the two parties, it does make it different. I mean, I'm 54. The first president I could vote for was H.W. Right? I mean, there are videotapes you can Google of H.W. and Reagan sitting around a little coffee table in a quasi debate, talking about how quickly we could get immigrants legal. I mean, it was like mind blowing, right? You'd see times where Arlen Specter, if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know he was a Republican. Right? I mean, so in some respects, it's way more overlap. Now, listen, what was it, right? It was always old white dudes. It was always people who probably did not fully appreciate the plight of women or the plight of brown people in the United States. I'm not saying that's not the case. What I'm talking about is the collective willingness to suborn local for national was different. All of
Reach
to
across
probably
the
holdovers. Yeah, I mean, McCain was that way and willing to do it. Right? I thought I mentioned Boehner earlier because I thought President Obama, who had a pretty wonderful mandate, had he managed Boehner's situation better, I think it could have kept the Tea Party types in check a little bit longer. Whereas Boehner, I think, is the first of us really seeing a weak speaker, right? As opposed to, say, Newt was a very strong speaker who actually, President Clinton got an amazing amount done with split power. You know what I mean?
Which raises one other question, the role that President Biden has in this whole scenario, because you've mentioned that relationship between a speaker and a president, very critical, obviously, we respect the division of powers here, but what is the role that Biden can or should play in this scenario, given what they're facing? It's not his party, not his problem.
No, it's not. If you were to think about a company, it's like, the relationship between the CEO and the people who are in the line roles versus the CEO who are in the finance, right? The Senate, I think, is more like finance in that there's long game investments, capital improvements. Like you pick a judge, you're picking a judge for decades, right? You do a treaty, you're doing a treaty for decades. Long game. The Senate, by its nature, at 6 years, is supposed to be beyond the passion of localized politics. Whereas the House is intended to be more mercurial, right? More of the moment, more of the people. And so I think that's why the relationship between the president and the speaker needs to be more in tune with of the moment concerns. And the president's willingness to say, this was my plan, but I'm not so steadfast to my plan to not recognize changes to the country. Like COVID, like a massive economic crisis that says, usually we wouldn't bail out these companies, but we're going to because we think it's important. Like claiming that you weren't going to raise taxes and then recognizing that after a massive stock market crash, you in fact needed to raise taxes. Right. Doing what's important for the entity, not yourself, I think is the point that matters, including working with the other side.
Should he stay silent right now while they decide who's next?
Well, look,
I know maybe that's political.
It is. I'll tell you, in any institution, I think silence creates a vacuum and the narrative starts getting written for you. It worries me, frankly, when there's silence. I would much rather say, we have an opportunity to change things. I'm going to work with whoever they put out, but it would be nice if we could do these things together. I mean, I think silence is asking the other side to fill it with nonsense. And currently we're not in the fact-checking environment. So it's like That's true. Who shouts loudest gets it. You know what I mean? So I worry. I think we're reverting to the olden days of let's not talk about the other guy's business. Sorry, the other guy's in the same house, guys. The thing that worries me the most is we've allowed now to talk about sides as if we're in different countries. When someone's elected, they govern all of us, right? It's like it's like two warring BUs who decide that they're not going to play nice. Well, then you're hurting the company, guys.
Yep.
And it's the company that pays all of us, right? That to me, where I just think we missed the point of what are we optimizing for? It would not appear to be the United States of America.